In this class we want to talk about innovation. We're going to look at some basic points about innovation. Now there are several classes on the course that do similar work as this one, not covering exactly the same areas, but introducing innovation. And the reason for that is that innovation is an extremely important subject in business. It's innovation that gives the consumers new products. It's innovation that changes the structure of industry, changes the way we work. So innovation is an extremely important topic, and as we work our way through these classes, it'll become increasingly more sophisticated, and we'll introduce more and more topics. But for the moment, let's just look at this introduction to innovation, and in particular, let's look at what we call the dimensions of innovation, which means we're able to categorize the types of innovation that are taking place. So we'll set it up as dimensions of innovation, and the first one we'll look at is the extent of change. Now, innovation represents a change from an original state to a new state. It could be the product that's been changed. The product is being redesigned, or it's been made from new materials, or something's happening to the product, which presumably will give the customers added value and better value, and it'll also give them perhaps a more interest in the product. The product looks better. So the movement from the original state to the final state is the innovation. It's the innovation that causes that movement, and that could be quite radical, or it could be what we call incremental. Now, if it's radical, it means it's a very big change. So the original product was of a particular type, and the new product, which is brought out to replace the original one, is totally different almost. It does this. It has the same functionality because it represents the same product, but it has extra features, or it looks different, or different design, perhaps made from different materials. It's a radical change. It's a big change. Radical for big. Incremental, by way of contrast, is when there are, I should say, small variations in the innovation. So the product is slightly changed, and then that product is slightly changed in the next time period, and again slightly changed. So it's changing in small steps. It's coming along in small steps. So we have radical innovation or incremental. And this could happen to a product, or it could happen in terms of the way we make products. For example, within a company, the company may suddenly introduce a radical new technology, a totally different technology, perhaps computer-based robotics or whatever, which is a big change in the way the company operates. That would be radical innovation. Or it could be just incremental innovation, where the company just changes the production system little by little over long periods of time. The second contrast is the modality of change. Now, the modality of change means, are we focusing in on the product or on the process? Because as I said earlier, there's a way, in a sense, two ways of looking at innovation. We can innovate the product, change the product, change the style, change the raw materials, and so on. So we could change the product. That's one way of doing it. Or we could change the process, how the product is made. Number 3 is the complexity of the change. The complexity of the change could be quite small. It could be just a component in the product, let's say, that's changed. It may be nowadays part of a circuit board that's just been changed. But the product itself looks exactly the same as the previous generations. Or it could be there is quite a major change, which could be represented by a more complex redesign of the whole product. So it could be just a small component that's changed, or it could be the whole product is changed. It's again very similar to our radical change. So it could be just a component, quite quite simply changed, or it could be something quite large and a fundamental redesign of the product. The type of change, well, it could be physical. That's a change that we can see. We can look at the product and we can see the the type of change that has been brought about. Or it could be intangible. For example, innovating a service, um, innovating the way a service is delivered. Now, that's intangible, but perhaps there's a new way of delivering a particular service. Capabilities and change. Um, well, change can destroy, or it can enhance, it can improve markets and also technological capabilities. Change can it changes the market in the sense that the old product no longer exists and the new product is now introduced, and customers have to adjust to the new product. Well, they may react against it. So there are market implications associated with innovation. Innovation doesn't operate in a vacuum. So the fact that the product has been innovated doesn't mean it's going to be successful. And there are also, of course, technological capabilities. Um, the the design of the product will have to fit with what is possible technologically. And there's also a cost element included in there, that if it is very advanced, then there will be perhaps a higher cost to the product. Again, a market implication. So the technological and market are linked. But it's important to look at innovation and look at the capability of the change and the change that comes about. Look at, is it possible to innovate a product? Is it possible to innovate a process? It may not be because of the nature of the product. It may be that the product can't be improved because any subsequent work on the product may lead to deterioration in the quality or in the usefulness of the product. Relatedness of change. Uh, it replaces a firm's existing product or extends it. Relatedness of change means that the changes that come about should be, or not necessarily should be, but generally are, linked to what went before. Innovation builds on the existing product. So the innovation may change the design or the image of the product or the functionality of the product, but at the same time it's building on that product. It's moving that product forward. So it may be extending the life of the product, or it may, if it's radical change, it may actually destroy the old product and introduce a totally new product that will do the work of the old one but have extra dimensions associated. For example, having a better design or greater longevity. It's going to last a longer time, or so it has extra dimensions built into it. Appropriatability and imitability. Well, it's difficult or hard to hang on to. Now, what that means is that some products might be difficult to copy. So some products are simply, and we talked about this earlier, some products are simply not suitable for innovation. It may be a food product, and the food product can't be altered for all sorts of reasons. So it might be that certain products can't really be changed. Some might be changed, but it might be very small changes. It can't be big radical changes. So it's difficult to sometimes innovate a product. The product is more or less perfect as it is, and it's therefore very difficult to change it. And then there are the cycle of innovation, the time between discontinuities. Um, when innovation takes place, we normally think of the innovation being small changes. It could be quite radical, of course, as I said earlier, but generally speaking, we tend to think of innovation as moving a process along or moving a product along and altering the product over time. But of course, there might be discontinuities in that. Sometimes because there's been a new discovery or there's been some great insight by an entrepreneur into the product goes through this radical change. There's a discontinuity in the product. It doesn't come along smoothly. It suddenly makes quite a jump in change. And then the product is, but it's still the same product, except it's now, as I said earlier, it could be a different design, different functionalities, different characteristics, um, and more welcomed, presumably, by the consumer. But it's quite a radically different product. And then it would continue to get innovations along from that new stand until again there might be another discontinuity, whereas again a very big change in the product. So that's what we mean by dimensions of innovation. We can contrast them. We can look at going from one to the next, the types, the extent of the change, radical and incremental, and the modality of the change from the product and the process, and so on. And that's what we mean by them. We'll see in a later video that we take some of these points and we're able to put them onto a small diagram which will again help to uh, understand clearly the distinction between these. So in a separate video that's made available on the site, on the course, you will be able to see these points come up again, but this time diagrammatically, so we can get a picture of what's happening. But that's all we're going to deal with in this video, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.